The Mind at Work. One time, I was a guest on a television show that seemed to have gone all wrong. From the host's first question, I felt she and I were at cross purposes, that her choice of direction wasn't what we agreed upon. Because of the need to move quickly through discussion, I felt we weren't developing the ideas I wanted to express fully enough for the audience to grasp their significance. I assumed the host agreed with my assessment because her body language seemed to support my on-the-fly analysis. When I left the studio, I was drained and distracted. Stan, who had been in the audience, thought it had gone smoothly, but on the other hand, he pointed out hitches that I also had noticed. After dinner that night with friends, one of them pulled me aside to discuss the show, which he had watched from his home. He enumerated the exact problems I'd seen with it. That night in our hotel room, I awoke from an uneasy sleep with the event on my mind. But the source of my unease wasn't the show per se. It was because I knew that the show's supposed outcome was being reinforced by me with each negative thought I put behind it. Since an event is never technically over in this universe of ours, because we select our past, present, and future moment by moment in the now, I started wondering what it would take to alter the TV show as I remembered experiencing it. I didn't just want to accept that I'd do better next time. I wanted to make that event literally become better than its first iteration. The most obvious issues that needed to be addressed were my feelings about the outcome and the beliefs about myself that led me into the situation in the first place. I thought a lot about what the committee says about it being easy to change beliefs by changing our emotions. That simply by saying and meaning whatever happened is no longer an option can work wonders, and that there's nothing to stop us from switching from one belief/emotion to another in the blink of an eye. So I settled my restless body and gave the process a try. I started clearing my mind by releasing my concerns and drawing myself into the present moment. Then I smiled and told myself that, hey, I did just fine. I let that roll around my thoughts for a while, and then I started thinking about the next day and the day after that. I saw myself telling others how great the TV show had gone, and I relaxed with the idea that I could make my choice right now as to what I wanted to experience, not only in the future, but in my past. I said to myself, the point of power is right now. Choose your thoughts and feelings wisely. Then, after maybe 10 minutes of unabashed smiles and little chuckles, I turned onto my side and went back to sleep. A day later, Stan and I viewed the video of the show for the first time. I felt a twinge of concern just before it started, but then I smiled to myself and said, what the heck, relax and enjoy. It took no more than a couple of minutes of airtime to know it was all okay. None of my original concerns were justified by what I saw on screen. I heard a pleasant repartee between me and the host, and reasonable answers to most of her questions. We seemed at ease with each other, and she was knowledgeable on my subject, which was the Seth material. I can't tell you how elated I felt as the show ended. I absolutely knew I'd impacted the outcome of that event, that I'd re-selected probabilities by changing my thoughts and beliefs through conscious choice. Not that the show was a stunning success, but it was good. I felt free and excited, ready to try consciously altering an event again, well, maybe not immediately. An interesting thing happened the next night. I received a fax from my friend who had seen the same original problems with the show as I had. He still saw them. His fax listed several issues he felt could have been handled differently, and the overall tone of his missive was one of disappointment in the outcome. As I read it, I thought, I can't relate to what he's saying. Surely we viewed two different events. Later, I asked the committee why. If I changed the past, did my friend still hold a reaction to the original version? They said he was reflecting a residue of my previous beliefs back into my reality. So, what happened throughout this ongoing event, and what happens to us all of the time, was that my mind, the organizer that it is, went to work immediately during and after the TV show to help me justify my ill ease. My friend volunteered to play the role of critic in order to validate my beliefs that the show had been awkward. When I altered my beliefs, the video validated my new ones that the show had gone well and I had done okay. Then my friend popped back into the picture to validate lingering but weakened beliefs about the whole thing. The important issue to grasp is that the mind will do whatever it takes to create the picture of reality as we believe it to be. Therefore, all beliefs will be justified in terms of physical data, meaning they will take on shape and form in our lives, whether they are to our detriment or support. A person who feels she's poor could lose, misuse, or badly invest any amount of money, whether she works hard for it or is given it. A person who has hypnotized herself into a state of loneliness will be lonely, whether surrounded by friends or holed up at home. We tend to seek out those situations and feelings that conform to our beliefs and avoid those that don't. Mind magic. The Screen Actors Guild (SAG) union card is difficult to come by at times for aspiring film actors, or so my daughter believed. With a Bachelor of Arts degree in theater, some non-union film and television acting, and a lot of stage work in regional and university theaters under her belt, Kathleen dreamed of the day she'd become a bona fide card-carrying SAG union member so she could steer her career in her direction of choice. She had been working with a casting agency which had sent her on many auditions over several months' time. When she had listed with the agency, Kathleen mentioned that she was not a SAG member. One day, one of the staff members told my daughter she'd been cast in a union film without an audition, and Kathleen reiterated her non-union status. The woman's reaction was read by my daughter as one of mistrust, as though Kathleen hadn't been honest with her from the beginning about the lack of a SAG card. The film job went away. After that, the phone calls from the agency stopped. Kathleen felt it was due to the misunderstanding. Since the casting agency was the largest in her metropolitan area and placed the most talent, she was very upset and concerned about the situation. Then one day, about 6 weeks later, the agency called her again and sent her on a film audition for a union part. Bemused by the situation, because she thought the agency surely remembered her non-union status, Kathleen went to the audition and won the role. When the agency called to discuss the part, Kathleen once more mentioned that she was non-SAG. The agent was surprised. No union card? Well, not to worry. And the agency arranged to get her the coveted card. My daughter was now a SAG union member. What happened in this scenario? Kathleen badly wanted to join the Screen Actors Guild, and she also felt that without the SAG card she was not professional enough in people's eyes, not to be taken seriously, a mere amateur. Her mind then set about proving to her just how the doors would close and how she would be treated without the sought-after union card in her possession. She selected a probability where the casting agency seemed miffed by the misunderstanding and therefore dropped her from the work list. But what happened between the time the phone call stopped and the SAG card entered Kathleen's reality? At first, she wallowed in worry and self-doubt. She told her friends of the situation, and they mirrored her concerns back to her. They hashed it over and tried to figure out how to right the wrong. Finally, Kathleen had enough. She decided it was time to change. Having a metaphysical background helped her see how she was compounding the problem through her negative focus. She knew she had to change her attitude and beliefs if she wanted to move on. The first thing Kathleen did was to release her pent-up emotions. She simply decided to let them go. She stopped buying into the belief that her acting future had ended in that metropolitan area and decided that, with or without the casting agency behind her, she'd make it. She started telling her friends that everything was going to work out fine. The ongoing discussion among Kathleen's actor friends was the major difficulty of obtaining a SAG membership. She, remembering how reality is created and believing it, told them not to worry. They would all get their cards in time. In essence, Kathleen modified her beliefs about her abilities, about the potential of the future, about what she wanted out of life, and what it would take to get it. She reset her thinking and started believing in herself again. She did a little visualization for another job, which she didn't get, but the focus on a positive future set the stage for greater possibilities. That change in her thinking then caused the selection of an event from the field of probabilities that brought her a dream come true. The mind works magic. It's the ultimate organizer, the consummate builder of realities. Our thoughts design the blueprint, and then the mind goes about its business of matching events to expectations. We get what we believe we'll see in our world. Snake people. Several years ago, Stan flipped on the television late one night searching for the news. Since I never watched TV and seemed to have an ingrained method of blocking its sight and sound from my consciousness, I paid no attention whatsoever to what he was doing. But a documentary that was on the air quickly caught my attention because its whole premise reflected the power of beliefs. Have you ever heard of snake worshippers? That may not define their activity accurately, but it seems there are fringe Christian churches or cults that use poisonous snakes in their services. Stan and I watched in fascination for about 15 minutes while very deadly snakes of different varieties were held, kissed, stroked, and wrapped around necks, all to prove that these people were God's chosen few and therefore protected from harm. Some, but not all, of the small congregation joined in this rite after working themselves into a frenzy through music, dancing, and incantations. Then, after playing with the snakes for some time with no apparent bites, several men drank what was said to be pure strychnine, again, simply to prove how protected they were by God. And indeed, they were protected. At the end of the program, the news team which filmed the scene announced that they had the liquid in the labeled strychnine bottles tested, and it was true and pure poison. And the venom from these deadly snakes which usually bite these people with regularity, although that's not what happened this evening, was found to be just as true and pure upon testing. According to the people who participate in these snake sessions, only the deeply believing ones survive. But those folks go on for years getting bitten and drinking poison without apparent side effects. We're back to asking, what's really going on here? Is it God who's protecting them? Or is it their belief that God is protecting them that makes them immune to danger? There is a great underlying lesson to be learned from these snake people, and a greater one about the ultimate power and organizational abilities of the mind. Feeling our way through life. The fabric of life is composed of certain continuous strands of thoughts and beliefs, homogenized into a feeling pattern. That feeling pattern is our emotional attitude toward ourselves and life in general, and it governs the large areas of our experience. Our feeling pattern becomes the active backdrop for our daily life's events, and our individual beliefs and emotions become the stars that shine against that backdrop. But the backdrop determines the overall picture of where we're headed in life, and so it must be considered as a major player in the creation of our reality. For instance, some people may have strong, supportive feelings about their ability to be successful in life because they believe they make their own luck or can manipulate circumstances to their liking. They feel confident that little can be done to stop their forward movement because they can handle anything that comes their way. They see themselves as emotionally strong and generally fit. Overall, they have a healthy attitude toward themselves and others and an optimistic overview of life. That attitude becomes the stage for their life events. An illness hits, seemingly from out of the blue, but it won't keep these people derailed for long because they have this wonderful undercurrent of feeling pattern that all will work to their advantage in the end. They may get fired one day and hit the depths of depression, but not for long. Soon they will rise to the occasion by allowing their ingrained feeling pattern to kick in and move them beyond the pain. So from a metaphysical viewpoint, we know these people created their illnesses due to their beliefs and they got fired due to their beliefs. We also know they pulled themselves out of both pits due to their stronger beliefs in their overall abilities. Both kinds of beliefs must be understood and recognized when we start consciously creating our experience. I know a man who missed that point, and it was his undoing. He worked with conscious creation for years, but he never saw the bigger picture of his life. He analyzed the beliefs that caused him to become ill or broke or hurt, but he never realized that his overall feeling pattern was incredibly pessimistic. In fact, he never would have applied those words to himself if backed into a corner. He saw himself as rational, logic, coping with what life dealt him to the best of his ability. But under it all, he looked for the worst to happen. If a minor unsettling event occurred, he dwelled on it, projecting its effects into the future via his feeling pattern about life in general, and therefore compounded the problem and verified the beliefs behind this feeling pattern. This went on year after year, wearing him down until he decided not to go on any longer. Finally, he simply gave up and died. It just wasn't worth the effort to continue when he could not seem to break the depressing cycle of haphazard constructions, or so I deduced. Fortunately, not all beliefs are rock solid. They flow with the feeling of the moment. They change when we're up or change when we're down. Say we're really excited about something, imbued with a zest for life. Then our belief in personal vulnerability may be put on the back burner as we sail through events that at other times would have had us biting our nails to the quick. This feeling of zest can become part of our feeling pattern if we cultivate it. Then it automatically sets the mood for our days and by default creates our life along its defined lines. It becomes part of our philosophy toward life, and by its nature exerts a tremendous force in shaping our future. Does it not behoove us then to take a closer look at what runs through our minds all day long, or what long-term attitudes and feelings we've held without ever questioning their value? You bet. And that brings up an important point, one with which many psychologists don't agree, thanks mostly to Freud. Beliefs are always found in the conscious mind. We don't have to fear a subconscious attack from beyond rational thought, or years of psychoanalysis to dredge them up to the surface. According to Seth, beliefs ride the waves of conscious thought constantly. Our problem usually is that because of our beliefs have become assumptions to us, they're never questioned and therefore never recognized as beliefs. It's similar to posting a note to yourself on your bathroom mirror, perhaps something inspirational that you want to remember frequently. How many days go by before you fail to see the note? So cleverly has your mind relegated to the background mode. It's the same with your beliefs. Just don't lose track of the fact that the conscious mind is a mighty tool there for the using. It may need taming and training, but that's about it. The conscious mind is well equipped to see its own beliefs, reflect upon them, and study their results as they develop in our physical world. So using this tool, the mind, as it was meant to be used, would automatically help us recognize both our beliefs and their effects. Then we could evaluate their validity and whether or not we wish to continue in the direction they automatically set for us.